Hello everyone. Today I'm sharing a pop-up spinner card using Sunny Studios Tiny Dancers. This is definitely a card that requires a lot of patience, but once you have it all figured out, it's pretty great. I also made it harder on myself by using 3 images instead of one, but I really liked how 3 looked dancing together. The first thing I need to do is create a reverse image of the 3 stamps I want to use. So using a My Favorite Things Mirror image stamp, first to find ink and my MISTI to do this, I'll remove the foam pad in the MISTI and I'll place the mirror stamp face up. And I'll go ahead and stamp my images on the mirror image stamp. For this, I'll add ink twice just to make sure that I get a good impression. And I'll take a piece of paper and carefully place it on top and rub it so the ink will transfer, so you have that reverse image. And I'll also go ahead and stamp these images normally as well. So I'll fussy cut these images off camera and I'm ready to color. And I think, I'm not as familiar with inks, but I'm not supposed to be using Copics with versifying ink and it bleeds a little while I'm coloring, or I didn't wait long enough. But I do go ahead and use Copics and I realize that it's bleeding, so I color pretty carefully. But I'm keeping to a pretty simple color scheme. I'm using only a couple of markers to do this. For the skin, I'll use E00 and E11, and it's usually my go-to combo. For the tutu, my favorite combo of pinks, which are R81, R83, R85. And for the hair, I don't really have a go-to combo, but I tried it out with the colors E34, E25, and E29. And I left a little bit of highlighting on top, which is just using the light colors near the top of her head. And I had the markers laid out and I had tried it with one other color, but it seemed too red, so I removed it. And I still have to work on my hair coloring, but I think this works for now. For a background image, I imagine the dancers to be dancing outside. So taking a piece of Bristol smooth paper, My Favorite Things cloud stencil, and distress inks, I created an easy sky background. I had pulled out a bunch of colors, but I ended up only using Dusty Concord and Chipped Sapphire, but I thought the colors ended up looking really pretty together when blended. And I also took a piece of My Favorite Things watercolor paper and colored up the edges with some mowed lawn and forest moss. And I only did this because I wanted it a little darker since it's supposed to be nighttime. And even though it's nighttime, it looks pretty bright. So I also took a piece of matching cardstock to create the stage, and I ran it through an embossing folder so it had like a wood grain texture. So I scored this piece of paper at half an inch, an inch and 3/4, and half an inch again. And I did it a little differently in the video because I changed my mind and I trimmed off a little bit more later on. But this will work as a pop-up stage. And I guess the stage dimensions will depend on your images as well, like the width of them. But once I'm done figuring out how high I want the stage to be, I will work on the grass area. So I'll go ahead and adhere the grass to the card base. Off camera, I ran half my images through this Xyron sticker maker and I put a piece of clear string in the middle of the image, and I'll add the reverse image to it so it sticks together with the piece of string in between, and this is what's going to be used for them to spin. But I'll continue to do the rest for all 3 images, where I'll place the piece of string in between, and I know you can't really see it, but it's there. So I'll use a needle to help me poke the holes for where these strings will go, and I'll mark off where I want them to go. So for the stage, I did it directly in the middle and 1 inch from each side since I have 3 images. And I put them closer to the front of the stage so that they have room to spin. And I'll pull the thread through the bottom of the stage, and I'll tape it down for each of the three. And if I were only to use one image, I think the card would be a lot more simple and a lot less time consuming. But I just really, really wanted to use the three images. So I had to test my patience in this card and just, keep working with it and making sure everything spins properly. But for sure, if I only used one image, it would be a lot easier to do. I'll adhere the stage to the background about an inch from the bottom because the stage is about an inch high. For the sky, I'll also need to poke out 3 holes. I do it directly in the middle and 1 inch from each side. And I'll go ahead and thread the other side of the string through these 3 holes and I'll tape them down. And all the measurements depend on what images you're using and how wide they are. So it's something that needs to be tinkered with, but I did want to share the idea behind the card. So I tinker with fixing the strings a lot so that the images are spinning properly. And this is where the patience part comes in. So I'll mark off on the grassy field the 1.75 inches, since that's how wide the stage is. And I'll adhere it directly to that grass. So once that's done, I make sure that the strings are the right length and I'll tape them all down. Once I'm happy with it and they're spinning properly, I'll go ahead and adhere the background directly to the card base as well. The Tiny Dancer stamp set has a bunch of little stars and flower images, so I actually stamped, colored, and cut these off camera, and I'll decorate them all over the card. I thought the sentiment, "Dance like no one's watching," was perfect for this card, so I'll add this to the grass area, and adding the flowers around that sentiment helps finish off the card. I also wanted to add a little belt to the card to hold it down since it pops up a little bit on its own. And when it pops up, the little girls will spin and it'll lose its little wind up. So I'll take a 12-inch piece of paper and cut it down to 1.5 inches in width and tape it together wrapped around the card. I'll use a Mama Elephant stitched frame die, and I wanted to do something quick and easy. So I took the tutu on a hanger and the pair of ballet slippers, stamped it to the front, and I'll also create a quick mask for it since I wanted to color up that white die cut in the same colors as the background inside the card. So I'll go ahead and use Distress inks to color up the background, and once I'm done, I'll remove the mask and I'll color in the images with the same pink Copic combos that I used for the tutus on the little girls. So once I'm done coloring up these images, I'll add it to the little belt, and this will hold the card closed. So for this kind of card, you have to prep the spinning girls by winding them up before closing. And since there's 3 of them, it's a little harder to do, but once they're wound up, I'll carefully close the card and I'll add the little belt to it. So when the recipient opens the card, the little girls will spin. I really love these dancers from the stamp set. They're incredibly adorable and perfect for the spinning card. So I hope you enjoyed the video. And I know I complicated it by using 3 images, but you can try it with just one. So if you ever try it out, just tag me on Instagram and Facebook. I would love to see it. Have a great day, and I'll see you next time. Bye.